Everyone, my name is Audra Burwell. I am the comm coordinator for College Bridge here with Miss Gina Saxton and Professor Schwegel from Delta College. Okay. Could you briefly introduce yourselves and share your roles in the math group program?
Hi.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Gina Saxton, and I am a math teacher for Stagg High School. My role is to be a facilitator / teacher / student, working with the statistics students.
Okay.
My name is Jackie Schwegel. I'm a math professor at Delta College. I teach the statistics content in the Math Bridge course.
Before joining Math Bridge, did you already know each other? And if not, how did you build your working relationship and get to know each other for this project?
No, we did not.
We didn't know each other.
It was Owen who really bridged us together.
Yeah.
We had meetings where we would norm certain tests or pre-tests. We'd talk about strengths and weaknesses of our students and how I can best help the student.
Yeah, I think there were a few meetings, and that first semester, it wasn't just the two of us. We had another Delta faculty member and another high school partner. So there were 4 of us who met with Owen a couple of times. It was very laid back and casual. Owen always brings snacks. But just an opportunity to kind of get a sense of what's your teaching style like, what's important to you, and also hearing from the high schools like where your students will be coming into this course, and then where I would want them to be coming into my college course, and trying to figure out how to bridge that. So I think talking about the math probably gave us something to start talking about, right?
Yeah, that's
common
awesome.
ground.
Yeah, you had a point of reference.
Right.
That's awesome. And in your view, what makes this model different from a traditional high school or college math class?
2 people.
I have a partner. She does all the heavy lifting, and I do all the relationship building.
Here's the funny thing. Gina says that all the time. I think Gina does all the heavy lifting, because what I think is really great about this is the relationship building. The students are super comfortable with their high school teacher. And then once I come into the room, it almost becomes like she's even more of a safe space for them, because I'm the new outsider person. And so it's interesting every semester to watch the students transition from the beginning of the semester, where even if I'm standing right next to a student, if they have a question, they will cross the room to ask Gina, right? To a place where we get to more of a, who's ever handy, they'll ask the question too. But I think the fact that they feel comfortable in the environment, because it's a high school classroom they're familiar with. Right. They're with peers they already know. In a college class, you're typically in a room with 29 or 30 strangers. They already have a student support group. They already have a high school teacher they feel comfortable with. And so I think that's the heavy lifting part, is to try to get them to build community and study together. And Gina's great at all of that part. All I have to do is come and teach statistics.
And that's why I'm so excited about this next term, because this third year, because I started with them. That was my first year here at Stagg.
Oh, really?
And when they were freshmen, so I taught I'm more than half of these kids. So I know what their capabilities are. And then of course we did the deep dive into their GPAs and what classes did they do well in, and things like that, and just telling them that I believe in them, and putting the word out, and so kids that we might have overlooked just on paper, we put the word out, and they're like, no, I want to take this class. And that's how we were able to fill our second cohort, because I had those juniors when they were freshmen, and I reached out to them because I had that relationship with them, and they did better.
Students they're always more likely to sign up for something, especially something new, if they hear from somebody they trust that it's a good thing. So having the same high school teacher be something that they've known all along. Even today with the flyers, a girl said, "Can I take this flyer to my friend?" And I was like, sure.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Because if a friend tells you the class is good, you're more likely to sign up for it than anybody who comes in from the outside and tells you it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing for them to have that level of like individualized support, like someone who knows that they would be a good fit, reaching out to them. And I mean, you are one of our best teams. Like you guys do work together so well. So it's awesome to see how you handle that like personal side of them, making them comfortable, and then like having them kind of get a little bit more confident as students, so that way they can get handed off.
Yeah, our personalities definitely overlap for sure. I mean, it's
Yeah, and I think one of the things when I first heard about the Math Bridge program at a CBHAC conference, that was one of the things that appealed to me was listening to Owen and Lynn say, we never force a teacher, high school or college, to participate in this program, because we want teachers who believe in it and are passionate about it to like be driving that. And I think that's really the thing. Like Gina and I both really believe these kids can do. So we come at it totally from that perspective.
And then this question, I know we covered a little bit of already. How would you describe your co-teaching dynamic? What does it look like when both of you are actively supporting students in the classroom?
I think we look at their data first. We kind of look at their data and, are they turning in their homework? Are they, and having access to the grade book is awesome because then I can see, I know when kids are absent and I take note of it. Jackie takes note of it. And then, but we look at that data and we're like, okay, this kid needs help. And then I strategically place them together. And usually it's random at the beginning. And then I start moving them to, at the end of the year, they're usually at my right? Because then I'm like giving them the 1-on-1 or 4-on-1 or 5-on-1, whatever. But I try to give them that support as well, including Jackie, who's coming in. And if I have a question, then I'm going to be asking her, or, and I give the kids that are struggling that confidence to say, I don't know. That's a great question. Ask Professor Schwegel. I don't remember how to answer that or whatever. And so, we play a lot of
and I think she's right. I don't know whether every team has this opportunity. We've been very fortunate in the 2 semesters I've been here that Gina has had a prep period the period before. So I have had the opportunity to come in a little bit early before every class, and that way we can have just a quick check-in. Hey, so-and-so has fallen behind, or did you notice on that last test, so-and-so did way better than on the previous one, so that we're constantly checking in, because then it gives us both a chance to sort of come at the student from our 2 perspectives, me as the college professor and Gina as a high school teacher, and they hear the same message, but they hear it in different ways from different people. And I think that just reinforces, if you're slipping, hey, we've all noticed you're slipping and we're here to help you, but you're slipping and we got to do something about it. And if you've had a win, like if all of a sudden you've turned it around, you've made a big improvement, then everyone's celebrating. And so I think it's good that we have the opportunity to talk about the students like that, obviously when they're not in the room, and just sort of be like, who's on your radar? We've got 3. Gina will say, I've got 3. And I'm like, oh, I bet I can guess who the 3 are. We're watching. Right. And so I think that it's really important to have that sort of support. It's different than other classes I teach, right? Where it's just you trying to figure out how to give the student what they need and reinforce. And sometimes when one person keeps saying the same thing to you, it becomes sort of like womp, 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 that monotone, and you stop hearing it. So I think the fact that they get it from 2 different people, I think it helps to keep it amplified.
Yeah, they're more likely to really let it sink in and realize okay, they're not just
if I started to sound like Charlie Brown's teacher, then maybe they hear what Gina's saying and vice versa.
We also eliminate the excuses too. It's like, and I do contact parents, and I let them know, hey, your kid's slipping. This is what has to happen. And then on the side note, we also have the conversations, because it's a semester long class, but they get 10 units for this class. So they might have received a D or an F first semester, and but the class hasn't ended. So I go with the final grade in terms of if they've shown progress, right? I've done grade reviews. In fact, this term I had B's to A's. There are 4 kids that had B's at the first semester, and at the end of the semester, they ended up getting A's. And so I made those grade changes. So I'm, that's, and then last term, our first year, I think we had a few, one actually. Yeah, one. And he's at a major university right now, so.
That's awesome, though, like them turning it around. And that's what we tell them, like, you can't expect this level of like support in like a regular college class. It's like they don't have your parents' number, they can't be like, why didn't he show up?
No, we don't do that in college.
Yeah,
but I do.
Yeah, and they're so fortunate to like have that dynamic. Let's see. And then what have you learned from working with each other, either instructional strategies, content approaches, or just insights about students?
I think I've learned a lot about what it's like to teach in a high school today. I think anyone in academics would agree that post-COVID, the world is very different. And so coming here and being able to see what it's like in a high school environment, we talk all the time about the pullouts. Right? Like in college, no one ever knocks on my classroom door and says, Juan has to come with me right now. Like that just doesn't happen, but it happens all the time in high school. And it's very distracting from the student's learning process and from your teaching process. And so it's been interesting to see what really happens in a high school classroom and all of the things that the high school teachers are navigating in addition to trying to give them competence. So I think that has given me a really interesting perspective when I'm viewing not only these Math Bridge students, but students at Delta who are coming to Delta from their own high schools. Like, okay, like in my mind, if you had a class, I'm envisioning you being in that class every day, fully focused on that class. And that's just not the reality in a high school classroom for lots of reasons. So I think that's given me a new perspective.
Same here. It was, my mind is here during, when I'm in college, it's in this classroom, but now I see that it's not like that anymore. It's the high school behavior spilling into the college, right? The collegiate level. And so I have no solutions, but we have common problems with our students that we've learned, and we've learned that, okay, if this kid is hungry, the Delta has a food closet, and we have a clothing closet here. We have other resources that we can tap into to assist our students. I picked up kids, with their parents' permission, and taken them to a coffee shop so we can study over the weekend. And it's not a no. I'm not looking for a no. I'm looking for what time, right? And so that's kind of like we try to eliminate the obstacles for them.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I think it's nice, especially if the students do end up at the affiliated community college. So our students who end up at Delta, it's nice to be able to say to them at the end of the semester, like, I'm not going to go away. You still have my email address, right? Here's where my office is located on campus. Stop by. I like that student earlier. Like, she asked a question about something at Delta I did not know the answer to, but I could get the answer, and I'm much more familiar navigating the college environment than a brand new student would be. So it will be faster if you come to me and then I'll find the answer, or at least I can tell you which office to go to instead of you just kind of like wandering around like we all do when we're in a new environment. So I think it's nice to create that bridge too. Like if you end up at Delta, then here's a question. Or if you just need a letter of recommendation, right? Which has been something too. Like, if you want a letter of recommendation and you take this class, you can get a letter of recommendation from your college professor, right? To apply for an internship or apply for scholarships or whatever.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of networking. Yeah. Important for them to know they're not alone once they get to college. Wonderful. And what are the student reactions been like having both a college professor and high school teacher, like dual teaching in the same room?
I think at the beginning of the semester, it's a little weird for them when Gina sits down and starts taking notes. Like, I think that's a little unusual for them. And the first day, this cohort, the first day, Gina wasn't in the room and I was. And I said to them, look, Miss Saxton's not here today. She's going to need your notes. And they were freaked out. They were like, wait, what? And I'm like, well, she's not here to take her own notes today. So somebody's going to have to give her notes for today. And that felt like a lot of responsibility for that. So I think there's some of those things. But like I said, there's also this nice transition where in the beginning of the semester, I am a lot more aware in my college classes now of how weird it is to come into that college class on the first day when not only do they not know me, but they also don't know each other. Because I've seen in these classes where their comfort level is very much, they already have classmates they know that they want to sit with, and they already know Miss Saxton. So I'm the only weird thing in the room, and so it's a different transition to getting them to be comfortable. Whereas in my college classes, nobody knows anybody typically in a room, and we're all like feeling each other, and it takes longer. I think the really nice thing here for the students is this is their house. I'm the stranger. They're comfortable in the space. They're comfortable with each other. They're comfortable with Miss Saxton. And so then like it's trying to figure out how to weave in the fact that now we're doing college-y things and we have college level expectations and how we rise up to that. But I think it's a little bit of a strange transition for them first.
It's definitely. I think that when I'm recruiting, because I'm always recruiting now, and so I look to them, and for me, it's like I provide them the confidence to say that they can do it, and so, but I guess now, as many of the comments were like, why didn't I know you sooner? Because I didn't know like the first group of kids, right? And I was a new kid. They were not the new kid. So that was the first time.
Right, because you were new to Stagg.
I was new to Stagg. And so that was my second year. And but we quickly, learned about each other. And so I think that, I don't want to say we're friends because, I don't want to be a friend with an 18 or 19-year-old, but it's like, for me, I'm that voice of, I'm a voice that that they have access to that sometimes their parents don't have, right? Yeah. They don't have that experience because some of our kids are first gen. So for me, I think that they can like ask me some certain questions, and I do not want to go against what any of the parents are saying, and I'm just like, oh well, that's interesting, and so I'm very much like, so how do you feel about that, and well, what would you do differently, and sometimes I have conversations with the parents and say, well, I think this is a great experience for your kid, and I think that they can do this, and
I do think the structure of the course as a like math bridge, right, where they were in a college course with you and I in the room, provided a really natural on ramp to talk about all other things college.
Exactly.
Right. I just think it opened up that conversation to be able to talk about like how many units and like what's it going to be like in a dorm, and like what if I don't get enough financial aid to meet the tuition, like there were opportunities to talk about, and like you said, because we have the same issue at Delta, a lot of our students are first generation. They don't necessarily have someone at home who's ever been to college who can help them figure those things out. They just don't have that experience to draw on. But the class provided an opportunity for them to, if they had a question, they were I'm filling out my FAFSA, I'm filling out my application, or I'm filling out my roommate questionnaire, those kinds of things. Like it made the classroom a space where they could ask those kinds of questions too.
Yeah, and that's wonderful.